Hey Allison, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a fabulous day. Today we're going to work on proof state 4, proving other things. So we're going to do this thing called CPCTC. All right, here we go. Example number 28 looks just like this in your notes. Um, this is what our proofs have looked like so far. We've done all of these things. We've proved our triangles congruent. Today, we're going to start proving other things. So we used to just prove that our triangles are congruent. Today, we're going to prove other things that we don't know. So when we do that, we're going to put things like angle A is congruent to angle D, and then our reason is going to be CPCTC. Now, what that means, if if triangles are congruent, then corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So I was saying if we know that two triangles are congruent, we can say that any of their angles that are in the same spot on different triangles are congruent, or any of the segments that are in the same spot but on different triangles are congruent. So we're just going to add another step today. All right? So make sure you get this copied down, please. And make sure you push pause anytime you need to if I'm going too fast. All right, moving on to 29. I already filled in our givens for us. They're already filled in. AB is congruent to CD. Angle ABAC is congruent to DCA. So now we need to prove that these triangles are congruent first. That's our first thing. And if we recall, we can do this right here. Segment AC is congruent to segment AC because of the reflexive property. Now we have enough information to prove our triangles are congruent, so we're going to do that. We're going to say triangle BAC is congruent to triangle DCA, and our reason for this is going to be side angle side. Now, we always prove, this is what we want to prove. Segment BC is congruent to segment AD. We know that our triangles are congruent, so all we have to do for our reasoning for this one is put CPCTC, corresponding parts to congruent triangles are congruent. So this is kind of how we're going to be ending our proofs today. All right, moving on to number 30. Prove the following statement. We need to prove that angle A is congruent to angle C. Before we can do that, we need to prove our triangles are congruent. Now our given is actually written on our triangles, so BC is congruent to BA, which is given, and AB is congruent to CD, that's also given. Then my favorite, we can use this. BD is congruent to BD because of the reflexive property. So now we have enough information to prove our triangles are congruent. So we're going to say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CDA. Our reason is going to be side, side, side. Now that we know our triangles are congruent, we can come back and we can prove this. Angle A is congruent to angle C because of CPCTC. Corresponding parts to congruent triangles are, in fact, congruent. All right, moving on. Here we go. Number 31. Our goal at the end is to prove that angle A is congruent to angle C. First, we have to show that these are congruent triangles. So, we know that AB is congruent to CD, given. We also know that angle CBD is congruent. Oh, let's say this instead. And angle ADB equal 90 degrees. And that's also given. So we know both those angles that equal 90 degrees, which means it's congruent to each other. Then once again, remains my favorite. BD is congruent to BD because of the reflexive property. Now we have enough information to prove our triangles are congruent. So we're going to say triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CDB. And our reason is going to be HL, hypotenuse laid. Now we have enough information. Angle A is congruent to angle C, and our reason is CPZTC. Corresponding parts to congruent triangles are congruent. All right, last example for the day. Now, this one is a little bit different at the end. Okay, we need to prove M is the midpoint of L or JL. Okay, segment JL. So we'll start with our given. We know that KJ is congruent to segment KL. That's our given. We also know that angle KML equals 90 degrees, given. Now, since that equals 90 degrees, we know that this over here is going to equal 90 degrees, so we can say angle KMJ equals 90 degrees. But this one we have to give a reason. And we're going to say definition of, since we know that was 90 degrees, we can say perpendicular, we can just use a symbol, you know, right of the word, lines. Alright. And now I have a little bit more. Once again, my favorite. KM is congruent to KM. Our reason is going to be reflexive property. So we have reflexive property. We have enough information to prove our triangles are congruent, so we're going to put that in there. Triangle KMJ is congruent to triangle KML by HL, hypotenuse laid. We have that right angle, a hypotenuse, and a leg. Now, this is where it gets a little bit different. We have to, I'm sorry, there was not enough boxes. We need to add another box onto the end of these. Now, for this one, we have to add this step. What I'm going to say every single time after we prove triangles are congruent, our next reason always is going to be CPCTC. We're going to know that something's congruent to itself. And we always know that we're going to end with what we're proving, so we're going to say M is a midpoint of segment JL. Now, in order for us to know that it's going to be the midpoint, we need to say, okay, what things are congruent if M is the midpoint? Well, if that's the midpoint, we know that JM is going to be congruent to LM. So right here, we're going to put segment JM is congruent to segment LM. Now, for our reason at the end, M is the midpoint of JL. Now, since we're kind of working backwards on this, we want to prove it instead of using it as a reason. When we work backwards and it's flipped, we're going to use the word converse. So we're going to use converse of the definition of midpoint. So the converse just means that we're going to be working backwards. All right? So now you're responsible for 33 through 38. the ones that we're going to use converse on, so we're going to take it the next step, are 36 and 37. All right, I hope you're having a wonderful day, sir. Enjoy.